Change will not come if we wait for some other person or if we wait for some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek.
Blacks in Madison have literally taken former President Barack Obama's words to heart and have launched projects in so many important areas that some are calling it a Black Renaissance.
Definitely there's a renaissance going on. If you look at here in South Madison alone, and just the projects that are going on here. You got the Urban League's Black Business Hub, you got the Black Cultural Center by Alex G. You got Brandon Rule's project down the street where he's going to put affordable housing and also a grocery store.
In the city of Madison, you're watching something happen that's never happened before.
I think the talent has been here for some time. I think what we're seeing right now is a willingness on the part of a number of people to say, well, you know what? I can step out, I can do this.
I do see something happening in Madison and Dane County that's different, and it feels real.
I would say there definitely is a renaissance happening.
I would say that the jury is still out on that. Oftentimes, people don't have the courage and the bravery. If we're talking about real change, I have a wait and see attitude.
Is there really a renaissance taking place in Madison? Or as Betty Banks suggests, is the jury still out? We'll let you decide by introducing you to Black trailblazers in 10 different genres, ranging from education to media, who are making Madison a better place for everyone. There is something extraordinary happening in Madison, Wisconsin. Despite blacks making up only 7% of Madison's population, there are more black elected officials on the city council and school board than ever in the city's history. 2 blacks from Madison were elected to the Wisconsin State Legislature in the last election. Madison's police chief is black, as is its superintendent of schools. Its district attorney is black, and its county sheriff. Blacks head up major nonprofit agencies and are launching multi-million-dollar building projects around the city.
I can't find anywhere in the United States where there's this much activity and momentum among African Americans in terms of moving into positions of influence, leadership within businesses that they work for, starting businesses and organizations, getting involved and engaged in politics and public policy.
I think I'm optimistic overall because I think if any location has a progressive environment where African Americans can be successful and people can be cognizant of some of the historical obstacles and impediments that have held people back and try to remedy those, that Madison is a place where that can be done. But it's difficult to know whether, just like we saw on the national scene where we were very optimistic with the 44th president, and then after that there was a regression, and so I don't know if something similar could happen on the local level as well.
So how did Madison get to this unique moment in its history, when the majority white population seems to be supportive of black leadership throughout the city? Plausible explanations range from the response to the Race to Equity report, to reactions to George Floyd's public murder, to black leaders demanding change.
The Race to Equity report was released in 2013. It documented racial disparities between African Americans and whites in Dane County in over 5 different domains. So looking at economic well-being, healthcare, education, juvenile justice and the adult criminal justice system, and the like. And in almost all those many indicators and domains found deep and stark racial disparities between African Americans and whites.
Madison is a tale of 2 cities.
When the Race to Equity report came out, the white community was shocked, right? And I think really had to take a look at itself and start to think about making some room for more leadership from communities of color.
And I think a lot of us thought we were past that, a lot of the white community. You know, that President Obama got elected, we thought we were on our way. What we didn't see was that the deeply entrenched challenges that existed still exist. And, you know, centuries of challenges don't just go away with one election.
George Floyd was murdered before us. I think that made everybody come off the fence. We all watched with horror. And I don't think anybody who saw that could stay on the fence anymore and say this is okay. Whatever the manifestations of that was, we had to do something different.
I believe that the fundamental shift in the political, economic, social, and advocacy landscapes began to shift when the letter by Justified Anger, written by Reverend Alex G., appeared in the Cap Times. It identified the ongoing issues of disconnect and isolation that many African Americans and other people of color were feeling. That letter on Justified Anger established a movement toward equality.
I think there are plenty of things that have gone wrong here, continue to go wrong with people of color, but I also think that there are a lot of people in this town who care, who really, truly, and honestly care.
The reality is, all of these reasons contributed to Madison's historical moment, with blacks in visible and significant leadership positions throughout the city.
Each of these blacks in these significant roles are prepared. They're educated, they're articulate, and they have relevant experience.
They're brilliant people who went through the application process and they were selected, not because of the color of their skin, but because of their resumes.
When we see black excellence, we just think, wow, these folks are excellent, but they don't realize that we have to show up early, stay late, and do all of these extra things, jump through hoops just to be seen as someone who's just as good as anyone else.
Blacks, like other ethnic groups, moved to Madison because of the university or state government, or simply seeking a better quality of life. Madison is a beautiful and affluent city, surrounded by lakes and home to scenic parks, with plenty of recreational activities for families. It boasts a world-class university and is the state capital. It is the second largest city in Wisconsin, with a population near 270,000. In 2021, Livability.com named Madison the best place to live in the United States. Unfortunately, its black and brown residents experience the city differently. Blacks consistently rank near the bottom in national statistics on racial disparities. But there is optimism that in education, black leaders are spearheading change.
I'm hoping that through my leadership, working collaboratively with our staff and with the community, that we could really and truly disrupt these disparities as we know them and speak more on becoming this prototype for a learning environment that embraces not only just the academic potential, but all of those other gifts all of our scholars and our community really deserve. That's what I'm looking forward to doing.
Dr. Carlton Jenkins is the first black superintendent in Madison School District's 180-year history. He's taking office at a time when the black community is seeking unprecedented action to close academic achievement gaps based on race. Kaleem Caire, Madison's native son, responding to the urgency of the moment, established a public charter school, One City Schools, to help eliminate racial disparities in education. When the school board denied his initial application, he did not give up. Instead, One City Schools became one of the first schools to receive a public charter from the University of Wisconsin system, authorized by the state to charter public schools.
We established One City to do two things. One was to eliminate this, whether you call it an achievement gap or opportunity gap. We look at it as a resource gap. Our folks have been struggling to get resources for years, education or the lack thereof.
Kaleem has led one city to remarkable heights. He started his preschool with 6 children in the basement of Reverend Alex G's Fountain of Life Church in 2015. In 2017, he started their elementary school. Today, one city enrolls over 250 students, and its enrollment is projected to be over 1,000 scholars within the next few years. Unlike many other schools, one city students saw their test scores rise during the pandemic.
We look at how did they grow from the beginning of the year to the end of the year educationally in reading and math. We found that they surpassed the national average pre-COVID in their reading scores. But for African American students, they blew it out of the water, both COVID and pre-COVID. And so we showed basically that our school is getting results with children.
Mr. Caire's vision included expanding his school from preschool to high school and locating it near Madison's South Side, the center place for African American identity, culture, and community.
It just so happens that WPS, Wisconsin Physician Service, the insurance company, was selling one of their buildings. And we were able, with the generosity of a philanthropist, Pleasant Rowland, to buy their 157,000 square foot facility plus 13.5 acres to create the One City Leadership Campus.
Now named the Pleasant T. Rowland Leadership Campus, the $14 million campus will be Wisconsin's first comprehensive early college and career secondary school, where all students will be dually enrolled in high school and a 2- or 4-year college, career preparatory program, or the skilled trades. They'll be able to earn a minimum of 30 college credits while still in high school, paid for by One City schools.
I want everybody to have high expectations of One City kids. We already see it. Oh, you go to One City?
While Kaleem is setting new standards for educating students in Madison, another educator has devoted her career to Black student success and is recognized internationally for her research and commitment to education.
That's the Dr. Gloria Ladson-Billings. And so no one can dispute that. There's empirical evidence to suggest that she is a clear authority in education. I happen to have great respect for her work.
That's understandable, considering that Dr. Gloria Ladson-Billings has been the president of the American Educational Research Association, the largest educational research association in the world. She's the first Black president of the National Academy of Education and was recently elected to the British Academy along with scholar Henry Louis Gates.
I tease people now about that. I said, you know, I'm going to call the Queen and ask if she's going to invite me to tea, because I'm convinced she has at least 2 empty spaces, you know.
Gloria was ranked number 2 in the 2022 EduScholar Public Influence Rankings that spotlight top education scholars across the nation who move ideas from academic journals into the national conversation. Dr. Ladson-Billings also has nearly 10 honorary doctorate degrees, acknowledging her exceptional contribution to education.
Majority of my work is focused on teachers who are successful with African American children. We have to get into a mode of what I'm calling acceleration. We have got to move away from remediation. Remediation doesn't even make sense on the surface. If I'm already behind, how does slowing me down catch me up? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. And so I've actually had some good conversations with Superintendent Jenkins about what can we do to accelerate our students' learning?
Gloria acknowledges that while Madison has an excellent reputation for quality schools, the disparate outcomes for Black students makes it similar to other cities in that respect.
In many ways, Madison is a microcosm of what's happening to Black students everywhere. We're not different in that way. I think we'd like to think we are, but we're not. And the thing that seems to plague Black students everywhere I go is what I would describe as under-teaching. In other words, they're in classrooms, but much of their interaction with the adults is around discipline, is around management, is less around their intellectual development.
Dr. Jack Daniels heads up Madison Area Technical College and, as its first black president, did something no other college president has ever done. He built a technical college campus on the south side of Madison, frequently called the black side of town, although that distinction is mostly cultural since blacks live all over the city.
Oftentimes, students that were in South Madison, they're not going up to Truax. And we need to serve this population. I thought about serving the community. My background is in community college. And by virtue of the community college, we serve the community and their needs. That's why this campus needed to be here, to serve the community's needs.
Jack has also set up transfer programs, making it easier for students to transfer their credits to other four-year colleges and universities, including historic black colleges and universities. But that's not what he's mostly proud of.
I think I'm most proud of seeing students and seeing that they accomplish their goals and objectives, because it is always about the student. One of the things about Goodman South campus is providing access to students so that they can be successful. But you got to have a facility and folks who work in that facility who are sensitive to the needs of the populations. And that's what we really focus in on. We have a very strong focus on equity and inclusion. There are 14 different murals within this college and Goodman South campus. This one depicts history of African American leadership in Madison. And this goes back 50, 60 years.
Dr. Daniels believes that the South Madison campus may also create synergy with other business developments on the South Side.
How do we help grow the African American economic development? We're doing some work in that area so that we can push that agenda.
Dr. Carlton Jenkins understands the faith that Madisonians, especially black parents, are putting into his tenure.
It is my academic preparation and my professional experiences that's truly prepared me to be in this moment in time. When I finish being superintendent, it is my goal and hope that everyone says, hey, he came in, he worked with everyone, he created opportunities for all children.
Superintendent Jenkins offers some pragmatic advice to teachers charged with educating children.
We have to do as James Baldwin said in 1963, and when he spoke to a group of teachers, and he was clear when they asked, what can we do? He said, to love our children.
Dr. Jenkins says there's something else the school district must provide.
All students can and will be exposed to a high-quality teacher. And then not only just a high-quality teacher, but a diverse, high-quality teaching workforce. When students can see themselves, they then have a tendency to perform even better.
When looking ahead 5 years from now, Superintendent Jenkins hopes to have things turned around.
You're going to see us moving the academic needle like we've never seen it in terms of these disparities.
While black leaders are making significant strides in education, there are other pioneers working with black youth outside of school. Will Green lost his mom to breast cancer and created his Mentoring Positives organization to honor her memory as he worked through his grief.
Her name was Muriel Pipkins, and to help me get through that time in my life, I took the M&P and I created Mentoring Positives in her honor.
Mr. Green was the 2022 recipient of the City County Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Humanitarian Award, where he was described as a kind and caring visionary and praised for his work with young people. He also works with adjudicated youth caught up in the criminal justice system and provides them with mentoring services, enrichment programming, and social entrepreneurship.
The hook is the key is our motto, so I use basketball and other enrichment programs to engage kids, and so I thought cooking would be another way to do that, and so we created off-the-block products to get the kids off the block.
Their salsa and pizza products are available at Metcalf's grocery stores and at Madison Willie Street co-ops. Profits from the sales benefit the youth.
I've been working with kids since they were 9 years old, And today I get to see them at 26, 27. They talk about how we influence their life. My job is to expose them and give them opportunity to believe they can be whoever they want to be, because that's where I come from. I believe you can be whoever you want to be if you have the right support systems and mentors and tools in place.
Will has bigger plans for the Darbo-Worthington neighborhood.
It's time for us to spread our wings and expand ourselves. I've been in the Darbo-Worthington Park neighborhood for the last 17 years. I would love to do some development in that neighborhood in the near future.
Services for Madison's youth have gone off the charts in the decade that Michael Johnson has led the Boys and Girls Club of Dane County. He has transformed the club into an agency of change. Mike recently received Boys and Girls Clubs of America's Heart and Soul Award, the highest honor among club executives, and was named the 2022 Executive of the Year by Madison's In Business magazine. Black families are well aware of the pipeline from school to prison, but under Mike's leadership, the Boys and Girls Club is providing Black youth with a pipeline to our colleges and universities.
The most, I would say, impactful is the Advocacy program, right? I heard the chancellor say back in February, because of this partnership with MMSD and Boys and Girls Clubs, that UW-Madison has the largest freshman class of color in the history of the university.
The Boys and Girls Club Avid Tops program had a 100% graduation rate in 2021.
We're not talking about 10, 15 kids. We're talking about hundreds of kids who are Black and brown, low income, who are graduating in our program and going on to college.
Michael says he's a blessed man.
I was fortunate that people invested in me. I was a kid that couldn't read, I couldn't write, I struggled in college, and now I'm somebody who run a multi-million-dollar organization, help thousands of kids. And while I'm not a pastor, my ministry is to help kids. My ministry is to help empower and advocate for children and families.
Mike believes the community must invest in our youth.
We got to do everything that we can to equip them, to empower them, to support them, and to make connections for them. And that's what we try to do here at Boys and Girls Clubs.
The Boys and Girls Club will soon open a skilled trade center that promises to train young people for well-paid jobs in the skilled trade industry. The new McKinsey Regional Workforce Center will be a state-of-the-art training facility that will connect young people to the trades and teach them about welding, plumbing, wealth building, life skills, and how to start a business.
What can Boys and Girls Clubs be doing to help teach young people how to become carpenters, plumbers, electricians, and also business owners? So we're building this regional workforce center.
The building is currently being renovated, and classes are scheduled to start in the fall of 2022.
We want to see kids graduate from high school and either go to college or come out and start making money and in the trades, right? The average skilled trade worker in Dane County makes $42,000 a year. And if we truly want to close the wage gap in this community, employ young people in this community, train young people in this community, and that's what that Regional Workforce Center is going to represent.
Mike remains optimistic that Madison will rise to the challenge.
This city is small enough, large enough, wealthy enough, and smart enough that we can make a profound difference in the lives of young people and families in this community, and I'm looking forward to the journey.
It's your girl, Jackie. Good morning, my beautiful people. It's Saturday morning. Hey, live, y'all. We out here at it again. We're at 2225 Ally Drive. We got all kinds of people out here volunteering.
During the worst of the pandemic, Jacqueline Hunt helped countless families stay in their homes when their work hours were drastically reduced.
We want people to stay safe.
Her nonprofit organization, Foster, helped deliver hundreds of nutritious meals, responded to calls for help with moms living in their cars with their babies, and paid for hotels, bought food, and provided essentials to them.
Every bag has been created with love. I think that the pandemic, COVID-19, revealed some harsh, ugly truths and realities as it relates to blacks in America, but specifically here in Madison and in Dane County. I support families by helping them identify resources, finding those resources in a lot of cases to support them maintain stability.
Ms. Hunt is a licensed therapist who has provided hundreds of hours of culturally supportive counseling service for some of Madison's most fragile residents. She's been described as a grassroots warrior.
When I think about a warrior, I think about somebody who is on the battlefield, who never gives up, and who really goes hard for something that they believe in. I come out fighting. And so that's the way I feel like I do for my families that I serve. I believe that they deserve to have support, and I do that.
Jackie says working with families has taught her that engaged parents do better in Madison.
If you're an engaged parent, your children will do fine. But if you're a single parent, kind of like I was, your children can fall through the cracks if you're not engaged.
Ms. Hunt is most proud of raising 7 children to adulthood as a single parent, while achieving a lifelong dream of earning her master's degree.
All of my young adults are doing amazing right now. The world said something different about my children because they were being raised by a single black mom, but we showed the world they were wrong.
Through jobs and housing and a host of other services, Dr. Reuben Anthony and the Urban League are helping to transform Madison's South Side and creating a new business hub. The hub will integrate commercial and retail uses and provide financial services and business support amenities.
Historically, we have been left out of this economic opportunity. We know that housing and equity from homes are the wealth building that we need to do. But this hub gives us an opportunity to create a space, a 78,000 square foot building to house in the first 2 years, maybe 50 or 60 minority-owned businesses.
Businesses housed in the hub will have access to mentors, training programs, get help with developing business plans, marketing assistance, have use of a commercial kitchen, and be able to network with culturally competent business experts.
We'll have loans and grants for black businesses so that they can start up and expand.
Besides his new groundbreaking business hub, Dr. Anthony says the Urban League is also focusing on home ownership.
The biggest disparity that Madison faces right now, I believe, is that disparity in home ownership. When we look at black home ownership, for the nation, it's 46%. When we look at Wisconsin, it's 26%. Wisconsin is the third worst in the nation. But when we focus in on Dane County, it's only 10%. So we're in the basement. We purchased the 16 homes. We remodeled those 16 homes. We sold 10 of those back to the community. We gave them an opportunity to become homeowners.
Vanessa McDowell is the first African-American CEO in 108 years at the YWCA in Madison. Born and raised in Madison and committed to social justice, she says she's waiting for more proof before declaring that Madison is in a renaissance.
I am waiting to see what you're calling a black renaissance actually happen. And so Madison a lot of times is very good at talking, I would say, and I just am really looking for the action and seeing opportunities arise. So now that we're in these positions, what ways will the larger Madison support us in these positions?
Vanessa says a benchmark to determine if things are changing is to see more black families become homeowners. Currently, she says the Y is the largest provider of affordable housing for single women in Dane County.
We're always having conversations about how do we expand that? How do we create more opportunities where there is affordable housing here in Madison?
Vanessa, an accomplished musician, finds balance in her life by DJing around town under the popular moniker of DJ Ace.
Really feel like I'm living out my purpose here at YWCA Madison in this role of CEO. But it's a heavy role and it's a heavy lift, and so I often want to make sure that I am balancing that with an outlet of some sort. And for me, that's DJing, that's music. And so being a DJ around town has been amazing. It's an amazing outlet for me. It's something I enjoy, something I love, and it is something that gives me peace.
In 2021, YWCA Madison was the first recipient of the National YWCA's Racial Justice Award and will soon train other associations in the U.S. They also have a tremendously successful YWeb Career Academy that specifically targets people of color and women to go into the technology field.
We've had people come to us homeless, working 2 or 3 jobs, but by the time they get out of our class, they are making $50,000, $60,000. So it's a life-changing experience.
The Progress Center for Black Women is led by founder and energetic CEO Sabrina Madison, whose nickname, Hey Miss Progress, was given to her by her father, who said she represented the progress of his personal struggle, in reference to a famous Frederick Douglass quote.
Our vision is to create doers, owners, and builders. Like, we just want to put our support, our resources behind Black women around 3 core areas: entrepreneurship, leadership, and financial health, because we've learned through personal experiences, including my own, that if we could help women win in those 3 areas, we can really impact and change the direction of their lives.
Sabrina was named one of Essence Magazine's 100 Woke Black Women in 2018. After the shock wore off and the screams of joy died down, the meaning of the award sank in.
I was shocked that they had named me, but then I was like, yeah, I am doing something dope. I am creating a space that we not had necessarily had, at least in my lifetime here in Madison. I saw them recognizing my work and sort of like recognizing this collaborative work between myself and the other Black women who've helped me get here.
Sabrina says Black women in Madison earn far less than their white peers.
When I found out that Black women in Dane County earned in 2016 57 cents on the dollar, that's a disgrace. The city should be disgraced. The county should be disgraced by itself. No one should be at 57 cents on the dollar, you know. We need to get the full dollar, but as close as we can get. So when we talk about like our current outcomes around crime, around education, you could tie a lot of that back to wages.
Ms. Madison is bolstered by the women who come through her center.
I'm just inspired by the Black women who came to the first conference and said, hey, I've lived here for 14 years and I just don't feel part of anything, to now, years later, say, because of the Progress Center, because of your work, or because of the spaces you've created, I feel like I have this sisterhood now.
Ms. Madison urges Blacks during these tough times to do what their ancestors did.
So if we could just think about leaning on each other, whether that means sharing a half a roll of tissue paper because both households are struggling, and maybe you're going in on a Sam's Club membership so you both do well next month and the continuing on. I just want more of us to think about it that way. Think about leaning on each other, supporting each other, and then pushing.
Dr. Carmen Porco says we need to trust people in poverty and give them the support they need.
We have come to this point not because there's a revolutionary mindset that just happened. We've come to this point through much suffering. We have spent billions and trillions of dollars to reduce poverty, and we haven't been able to do it because we don't trust the very people in poverty to take opportunity by having the resources and a nurturing environment that allows them to say, here are some answers. We're now beginning to see that. I hope it is an awakening. I hope it continues with deep sincerity on the part of the power structure.
Reverend Carmen Porco knows what he's talking about, having helped lift hundreds of people out of poverty in Madison and Milwaukee over the past 40 years through his urban housing ministry.
We're trying to change the system so that we can all feel the joy of its benefits.
Dr. Porco says the people most affected by the dominant policies is where we need to seek the answers, and Dr. Ruben Anthony agrees.
We have to recognize that we can help craft a vision for how to move this city forward.
Black Black women's health has been elevated in Madison, due largely to the efforts of Lisa Caire, a rising star in the healthcare field, who leads a dynamic organization dedicated to Black women's health.
Black women are so often the last in line to get the attention to the issues and the concerns that we're grappling with, that we're struggling with, the issues that impact our families, our children, our partners, are last on the totem pole. So really it was a decision that who else is going to do it if we don't?
Lisa represents someone with a passion who took that passion and made it a reality for health and successful health outcomes. And it stemmed from really watching how her mom was treated when she had heart disease. I was with Lisa when she began this, when only 2 or 3 people, and you would say, Lisa, please, you know. But she was passionate, and she said, this is something we need to do.
I remember years ago when I first met Lisa Payton Caire, one of the things she said to me is, if you don't see it, create it.
So it was urgent and necessary to prioritize Black women in a way that we have not been prioritized in this community, in this state, and we're really setting the model for Black women speaking for themselves, creating the solutions we need, and holding others accountable to do the same.
Lisa is master's prepared. She's educated, and she knew how to go about making her passion a reality. I'm just so proud of her.
Dr. Barbara Nichols has made her mark in healthcare, not only in Wisconsin, but throughout the world. She was named a living legend by the American Academy of Nursing. Presently, at 83 years old, she is the executive director of the Wisconsin Center for Nursing, a nonprofit organization statutorily created to deal with workforce issues in nursing for the state. Ms. Nichols was the first Black president of the Wisconsin Nursing Association, the first Black president of the American Nursing Association, and the first Black appointed to a cabinet-level position in Wisconsin.
I didn't start out thinking I wanted to be the first. I got there because I was prepared, I was knowledgeable, and I took the risk, or one could say I had the courage to step up and do it.
Lisa stepped up too, and giving up is not an option for her.
Deep in my heart, and I struggle with this because I am among many Black folks who have struggled to live in this city, to raise children in this city, to drive change in this city, but I'm not willing to give up because I also see massive opportunity and possibility in this little city surrounded by lakes, with this activist culture where people truly believe in change.
Lisa was asked what a renaissance in healthcare would look like for Black people in Madison.
A renaissance in healthcare, generally speaking, would be a state of existence in Greater Madison and across our state where we can say we eliminated disparity, where we are living longer lives, where we're not succumbing to illness, chronic illness and disease, because of our race, because of our zip code, that there won't be these unacceptable gaps between how a Black child can make his way or her way into the world versus how a white child can make his or her way into the world. The numbers will shift, and we will see healthy Black families as the norm, not the exception. That's what we're working for it to be the norm, not the exception, for Black families to thrive in this state.
While Lisa and her team focus on Black women's health, Aaron Perry is bringing daily preventative health screenings directly to Madison's Black men through his clinics located in barbershops. Aaron also founded the Perry Family Free Clinic, which provides free primary health care for uninsured and underinsured Black men in Dane County.
I started the organization when I looked at the average age of death for Black men in Dane County, and 3 years ago was 51 years of age. And what I did is that this is unacceptable. We have a top 10 university in our backyard. We have $3 to $4 billion hospitals and clinics in our backyard. How is it that we can't figure out how to keep Black men alive longer than 51 years of age? And so we created this organization to respond to that specific issue.
Aaron says despite the stereotypes, Black men care about their health just as much as anyone else, and it's important to offer preventative services that they can access easily.
In addition to doing the preventative health screenings, for instance, guys can come to the barbershop, get a haircut, they can get up out of the barber's chair, come into our men's center, they can get a diabetes test, they can get now a COVID-19 vaccination, flu shots. We try to do everything that it takes for Black men to get healthy and stay healthy.
In 2018, Time magazine selected Mr. Perry as one of 50 people worldwide who's transforming healthcare, joining the likes of Bill and Melinda Gates. Although he has been a diabetic for 29 years, Aaron was the world's first African-American diabetic to finish an Ironman triathlon. He said his mission is to make healthcare convenient for Black men and save lives.
We looked at all of the spaces where healthcare was being provided from, and there was a clear disconnect that Black men were not comfortable going to these places. So we decided to bring healthcare to a place where they're comfortable. And that's what makes this organization work. We have served over 36.3% of the Black male population in Dane County. There's only 15,600 Black men here. We account for 6% of the male population. And so by providing 5,800 Black men with preventative health screenings, we've almost reached 50% of the Black male population. There's not a health system in the state of Wisconsin that could say that.
Mr. Perry says his approach actually saves money and is cost effective.
We're trying to show them that you can have a very successful preventative health screening program for Black men in the barbershop. You can have that, and it doesn't have to cost as much money as we see the health systems and what they're spending. So we're proving that this idea that we had about bringing healthcare to the barbershop where Black men go, where they respect and where they feel safe, this to me is the new place. If you're serious about reaching Black men, you're going to have to set up healthcare in the barbershops.
This is a phenomenal time and an opportunity for us to step forward and step up and step out in terms of making a difference in our community. And from a health perspective, I think there are lots of opportunities for us to create and to make happen, and I would challenge us to do that.
We advocate as the voice of Black businesses, and that has been very crucial during this time because a great deal of the work really involves policy and how policy impacts businesses.
Camille Carter is the dedicated CEO of Madison's Black Chamber of Commerce and provides networking opportunities, resources, and referrals to Madison's Black entrepreneurs. The Chamber offers a wide range of services ranging from Black Restaurant Week to a Black Business Directory for its members.
All of the products and programs and events that we feature, it's really to highlight our Black businesses and to promote the good work and the hard work that they are doing.
Camille Carter says despite the pandemic and some unfortunate closings, Black businesses in Dane County are growing.
I've been in my role for about 4 years. And when I came on board here with the Madison Black Chamber, we had identified just a little over 300 Black-owned businesses and entrepreneurs. Today, we represent about 550.
Most Black businesses in Madison are service-oriented, either sole proprietors or very small family-run businesses. 90% have less than 5 employees, although Camille says they're moving in the right direction and some are evolving into technical areas, including science and engineering.
The trend is growing, and I think that is just in alignment with the Madison community in general. The state of the Black business is evolving. It's trending upward.
Indeed, Madison has a rich history of Black entrepreneurship. Cora White is a successful photographer and entrepreneur and author of a popular photo journal. She was perhaps the first Black in Madison to successfully sell a business to a mainstream company, her phone answering service. She has been a foster parent for 30 years and was the first female and first African American president of the Wisconsin State Foster Association, as well as the National Foster Parent Association.
I traveled with children, foster children, as well as my own and other children who were not in the foster care system around the world, trips from 1 to 5 weeks. I wanted them to see a different side of the world and learn that there are people who look like you who lives in these other places. I brought the first and only International Foster Care Conference here to Monona Terrace, a week-long conference with people from over 40 countries.
Because of her international work, Ms. White was able to make some significant changes in the foster care system around the world, including asking families in Poland and Japan to place foster kids in homes instead of orphanages.
Because of that, they began to put children and young people in homes where they had a spare room.
Ms. White taught herself the ins and outs of business, since there were few mentors at the time.
I organized my own business because I didn't know anything about business, and people would say, you know, you can't even spell business, so what are you doing? But I decided, you know, if you tell me what I can't do, I'm going to show you that I can. And that's what I tell people now, you know, always show them that there's a way. You do your research and you do your studies and you tell them, yes, I can.
Ms. White did not want other businesses to have to learn by trial and error, so she helped form a business group.
I am the co-founder of the Madison Minority Business Association. And because of that business, we have now the Black Chamber of Commerce, we have the Latino Chamber.
Known for her dry wit and wisdom, Ms. White quipped why she's been so successful.
Poor is a state of mind, and that's one state I never like to visit. So you always carry yourself where people think that you have, and you can, and you will, and people don't question it.
Bob Wynn is committed to building wealth in the Black community. Although he holds a law degree, he has nearly 30 years of experience in business and economic development and is a national leader in the financial services industry. Wynn is the founder and president of Asset Builders of America, Inc. and Climb, two nonprofits that teach people financial literacy and investing.
I was close to 30 years old when I learned how to invest. And I was really amazed about what a difference it can make in terms of accelerating a person's ability to build wealth. And I felt that it was unfortunate that I didn't learn much earlier because the power of compounding works over long periods of time.
Mr. Wynn believes that learning to invest is critical if Blacks want to build wealth.
And that's why right now I'm focused even more on investing than other parts of financial literacy. But all parts of financial literacy are very, very important. And some of the elements such as credit and saving and budgeting are foundational. But the real accelerator is helping people to learn how to invest and build wealth over a long period of time.
Bob Wynn worked for the Department of Commerce as director for the Minority Business Development Bureau and helped develop the Minority Business Development Fund, which provided over $10 million in loans and grants to minority companies and helped to create nearly 2,000 jobs in Wisconsin. But investing is his passion.
Over the years, I've started probably 30 or so investment clubs. Most notable one got started in 1987 when I started working at the Department of Commerce, and that one is still going today and has over $951,000 in it now.
Ms. Carter says despite some very real challenges, Madison is still a good place for business.
Madison is a great place to do business. There are opportunities that are out there, access to resources. I often call this community very resource rich. You have a state government that is here. You have a top-line university that is here, and then a host of community colleges and economic development agencies that are really, really available for our business community.
Cafe Coda has fast become the place in Madison to hear local, regional, and international jazz artists. Hannah John Taylor, a global jazz musician in his own right, is the owner of Cafe Coda. A Chicago transplant, Hannah has lived in Madison for 28 years and has made Madison's jazz scene internationally respected.
Our philosophy has always been, first you think it, then you see it, then you be it. And so the aspiration of having a place like this came from the opportunities that I have had in my lifetime to travel and see real jazz venues, and to compare and contrast the feeling of those places.
Hannah says every reputable club must have 3 elements to consider itself a genuine jazz venue: a stage, a piano, and a green room.
When you have these 3 elements, then you are able to boast of a congeniality that international musicians are accustomed to.
Although the pandemic was tough on small business owners, Hannah managed to stay afloat due to donors of his GoFundMe page, jazz patrons, and subscribers to his live jazz streaming service. He says artists have a duty to share their talent.
The most worthwhile thing that any artist can do is to share what he has worked for and achieved and developed, or what he is developing, with those who might not have had the same opportunity or those same experiences, and to share with them those experiences.
Madison has always been home to world-class artists such as Richard Davis, Clyde Stubblefield, Linda Mathis, and so many others. UW-Madison Emeritus Percussion Professor and local legend Jim Latimer has conducted hundreds of concerts for the Capital City Band, spanning over 40 years. A representation of Madison's most distinguished artists gathered at Cafe Coda to talk about the status of Black artists in the Mad City.
I feel there's definitely a renaissance that has started. Renaissance simply means an awakening. It's not to the degree of the Harlem Renaissance. That was a wonderful renaissance, an awakening of the arts that spanned years and included many people and equally impacted all kinds of the arts. So no, we're not having that kind of renaissance here.
I think renaissance is such a strong word. I would like to say just re-emergence or solidifying more of an emergence. I think, you know, art and music and culture has always been happening within the Black context here.
I don't know if there's a renaissance. I know, I believe there's a greater awareness of art and a greater appreciation within our community for Black art.
Miss Malele Chikasa Anana, deceased publisher of Umoja magazine, called him the village artist, and his paintings grace the covers of Umoja magazine frequently.
The fact that Miss Malele considered me to be the village artist, that's a huge honor and compliment.
Jerry Jordan, Madison's outstanding visual painter, toiled many years honing his craft.
I've been working in my basement next to my washer and dryer and ironing board for the last 15 years. A lot of times people think, you know, you have a God-given gift, and there is a gift, but you have to really practice. You have to train that and hone that gift and learn how to draw, learn how to mix colors, learn how to actually design and lay out your painting.
Today, Jerry has his own art studio and plans to hold art classes for youth while also having a place to bring his clients.
I have a space where I can really create and do larger scale pieces and have it as a showroom to invite potential clients to come and see my studio and see my work and hopefully get more commissions. It's a big deal for me, but it's not going to change my work ethic. I'm still going to be getting up at 4 in the morning and doing my thing.
Jerry's work is gaining national recognition. All of his paintings on display sold out at his show A Vibrant Thing, held at the Portrait Society Gallery in Milwaukee.
My painting, A New Song, was chosen to be part of the Black Excellence Show at the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago. My painting was also shown in American Art Collector magazine. For a painter, that's a huge thing. I can't even explain how big a deal that is.
Jerry tells his fellow artists what his real goal is.
I want to be that artist that when the next few years down the line, a kid asks his professor, could you point me in the direction of a black painter that I can look up? There you go, right there.
Some of us came silently through darkness, fleeing slavery, plantation, southern ways and dangers.
Poet Fabu was Madison's first African-American poet laureate.
It was really a magical time in terms of being able to speak for poetry all over Madison and all over Wisconsin. What the selection as Madison Poet Laureate did for me was open up opportunities to show who we really are, to give people a glimpse in Wisconsin of the African-American presence.
Besides Miss Malele, Poet Fabu credits longtime librarian Chris Wagner as helping her career.
Chris Wagner at the South Madison Library. Before she retired, she very much supported artists. So libraries and artists have had a wonderful symbiotic relationship. Langston Hughes is buried in the Schomburg Library. His remains, that's how much he loved his library. So I'm not going to get buried in any of these libraries, but I acknowledge how helpful libraries have been to me as an artist.
Poet Fabu's work is permanently etched in Madison's sidewalks, on Willie Street and Monroe Street, and she has some advice for potential poets.
Keep writing, even if you're writing over decades, Keep honing your craft. Keep expressing your voice. Keep believing in yourself. So you never know when other people will read you or know you or feel you or experience you or even applaud your work.
Multi-talented Richard Scott is an author, actor, playwright, and longtime advocate for Madison's youth.
We have a lot of young people who are just kind of like floundering, and to have the older people, those who are in business, those who are in different situations, they could be a very, very positive influence on our young people. So that's what I enjoy doing.
In fact, during his 30-year career as a counselor at East High School, Richard created an award-winning youth group called Kojo Productions.
It was an African-American term, and it focused in on young men. And one of the things that I saw being a counselor at Madison East High School was the fact that a lot of these young men didn't know what the whole concept of growing into manhood. And so we used the term Kojo, which also stood for pride and dignity and, connectedness.
Mr. Scott has penned several plays, one of which was called The Invisibles, to call attention to the homeless. But perhaps the play Mr. Scott is best known for is Buffalo Soldiers, a tale about the black cavalry that served in the West.
I wanted to bring that story out, the fact that African Americans weren't just slaves in the military, but they gave a significant input to what happens in terms, especially the 9th and 10th Cavalry.
Richard says he would someday love to see Madison have a permanent home for black playwrights.
I know that there are playwrights who have been here, kind of come and gone, and that's one of the things that I would like to see is a stabilized place where the folks can come and can, work on their talents and work on their skills.
Because the only way we gonna deal with these problems is to come up for those.
State Street was lit up in the summer of 2021 when Madison's master rapper and recording artist Rob Dees hosted weekly musical events.
We asked for a hand up, not a handout, so.
As a way to draw more diversity downtown.
Let's talk about it.
Well, the idea of Mad Lit came from the fact that I lived on State Street for 7+ years, and I actually lived there during the time of the civil unrest and seeing all of it. And seeing everything that happened and seeing the murals go up and then seeing the conversations that were happening. And as the murals started coming down, it kind of became this idea of well, what can we do to keep this going and making sure that we are still seen and making sure we still have a presence downtown? Because I just felt like it couldn't go back to business as usual. Downtown hasn't necessarily been the most welcoming place for folks of color. So I figured, why not be able to just utilize the access that I have through the gifts that I have and continue the process and making sure that we are seen and making sure that we have an opportunity to have that access. So that's where Mad Lit came from.
Rob is well aware that rap is often given a bad name and linked to violence.
When you have limited spots, of course, the likelihood of something happening happens because there's a lack of options. So, you know, for example, if you had 4 different venues for folks to come to, then crowds would spread out and the likelihood of problematic situations would be a lot less. So I think that has been a challenge in really trying to create spots and create spaces.
Rob teaches through his rapping, which he believes is his calling.
Just being able to teach and share and really try to provide inspiration is more so my calling. I would love for it to be on stage a lot more.
If you ask Madisonians who the black maestro in town is, one name comes up.
Leotha Stanley. You got to pay tribute to the maestro.
Well, my folks bought a piano for the house, and it was just sitting there. My sister was the one that took piano lessons, and all I did was dink around on the piano. And so I would listen to a song on the radio, and then I would come to the piano and finger it out as I figured it out.
He's been in every venue and every major production, you know, that people have done over the last, well, I'm not gonna say how many years, over several decades.
Heat Wave was the first song that I ever learned how to play on the piano. So, and then I went from there to taking 2 years of lessons.
Leotha Stanley is one of Madison's hidden treasures. He is the musical director at Mount Zion Baptist Church and probably has done more to popularize gospel music in Madison than anyone else.
Shall we sing?
He plays at the annual Martin Luther King Jr. event and other events too numerous to mention. He wrote an award-winning song for the musical play Roar and scored music for the Madison Symphony for 15 years.
I think there's enough support if the product is right, you know. And the more that you shake a bush, you're going to get some interest. And so you just got to keep shaking, and you can't blame the bush because all of the support is there. And so the more you shake, the more you get. And I just like to shake the bush.
His Christmas extravaganza is a must-attend concert annually, but he still makes time to devote to young people.
I've had thousands and thousands of students that I've worked with over the years since 1991, and I hope that I put that same type of self-determination and dedication into them as they grow.
Dr. Frida Tesfagorius is an award-winning pioneering artist, art historian, curator, and scholar. Her signature artworks include Aunt Jemima's matrilineage and Hidden Memories. Frida taught 42 years at the University of Wisconsin, where she helped many artists get their start. One of her pieces of art was donated to the Chazen Museum when she retired. She is a recipient of the UW-Madison Chancellor's Distinguished Teaching Award and says art is her passion.
Yes, art has been my passion. My father, in fact, said the first thing I reached for when I was a young child, a baby, was a crayon. So there it was. I've always had that interest in art.
Frida passed her love of art down to her 4 children.
All 4 of my children are artists. I always kept a household in which art was very much a part of our lifestyles. And as I created, I gave my children the same materials that I was using to also create.
Dr. Tesfagorius says teaching is her other passion, and she tried to expose her students to professional artists working at the national level.
One of the ways in which I teach is not merely lecturing and presenting the most recent data, the historical data in African American art history, but also inviting artists to come here to Madison. People like Richard Hunt, Marana Oyelama, Lamidi Fakeye, and also I take my students to see the Afro-Cobra exhibit at Northwestern University or Chicago Art Institute, Milwaukee Art Museum, even to Howard University.
One of her career highlights was receiving the prestigious Lifetime Achievement Award to acknowledge the impact her scholarship and paintings have had on African art worldwide.
I think I am just elated by my Lifetime Achievement Award, which I received this year in April from Howard University, the art department. And what better place than Howard University, which is not only a center for African American art, but it's also the place where James Porter was a professor for many years.
Frida would love to see a larger collection of Black art in Madison, similar to the collections found at Howard University and Spelman College.
There needs to be really a much greater effort of collecting works by African American artists, and I think this is where the Black community can be useful. What can we do within the Black community to ensure that these works are preserved?
Dr. Ed Holmes was head principal at West High School for 10 years, but today he is the Chief Equity and Innovation Officer at the Overture Center for the Arts, Madison's premier $205 million art facility. He is also 1/5 of the executive leadership of Overture.
When I started back in 2016, there was this perception that Overture Center was just for, an exclusive portion of the Madison community, and not necessarily a place that welcomed people of color and people from diverse communities. And so my role and my job was to really begin to change that perception.
The Overture is consistently producing exhibitions by Black artists.
Ed says this was intentional.
Doing the legwork, doing the outreach, inviting people to relevant and meaningful performances and productions, community events, supporting local artists, supporting leaders, and bringing different opportunities to the local community, but across the state.
Ed grew up in the arts, starring in plays in kindergarten through junior high school. In high school, he was in a male chorus and traveled on national and international tours. When he arrived in Madison for college, he wanted young people to have the same opportunities that he had in his youth.
Screaming out for freedom!
So I created Ebony Expressions back in 1980-82 and continued to do Ebony Expressions with high school youth.
We found proof that Ed has been acting for over 40 years.
I'm sorry, babe.
No, I'm sorry for the things I said.
Although the pandemic forced the Overture Center to shut its doors and take a nearly 90% loss in revenues, Ed says they intend to return stronger, better, and committed to diversity.
As we return, there will be opportunities for the Black community to be on the stage, to be in the audience, to be a part of this Overture experience.
Some of us came as African American.
Poet Fabu shares a portion of her inspiring poem, We Are Wisconsin, reminding us that Blacks have long been a part of Wisconsin's history.
All of the centuries we have walked this land, both rural and city. We are Wisconsin. We have always been Wisconsin.
While there is a general consensus among leaders that a rebirth is happening in other areas in Madison, there is also a consensus that more systemic changes are needed in Dane County's criminal justice system.
We can't continue to be a state that incarcerates the highest number of Black men in the country. And what can we do both in Dane County and Madison and across the state to address that issue?
You can come in with ideas and have a lot of energy and vigor about trying to implement those ideas. But you're working in an infrastructure that was there long before you were, and it has people who were in there long before you were, and whether or not they're going to be willing and open to go along with your ideas is a whole separate story.
And there's a lot of discretion that we have access to as judges that we just have to make sure we step into that discretion to use it for who. And I've just chosen to use my discretion for those children. So just for example, just some of the changes that we've seen, taking off handcuffs off of children in court, that was discretion.
These systems are made up of people. They're predominantly white people within the systems that are making decisions. And not only do folks need to sort of reflect on their own work and do their own personal work around bias and white privilege, but really need to, if you're in a system, look at how those systems can change in different decision points. Think about, do some analysis on the impact on communities of color and the African American community, because the systems are made up of people and the systems need to change.
Dr. Sean Barnes is the person Madison selected to reform its policing system in this historic moment. Although there have been other black police chiefs before him, he is the first to serve in this era where many are calling for genuine police reform.
The only thing that I ask is that, you give me an opportunity to implement some of the things that I want to do, that you hold me accountable.
Chief Barnes has a track record as a reformer who uses science and data to reduce crime. He is a nationally recognized leader in crime reduction and community police relations, and he holds a doctorate degree in leadership studies. He says his focus will be on violent crime and wants the black community to know that he understands their skepticism about police reform.
I've had my experiences with the police, and indeed it's one of the reasons why I chose to don this uniform for the last 21 years of my life. But I think it begins with me as the police chief acknowledging that police have not always stood on the right side of justice as we define justice today. I understand that as a police chief. I apologize to my community for that, and for anyone in this community that's ever felt wrong or felt that the police didn't do a good job for them. You have to acknowledge that and apologize for it. But more importantly, what are the steps to move forward? Number one, we have to begin to work with our community, not against them, but work with them. We have to listen to them. We have to be accountable to them, which is why we give a lot of information to our community, good or bad.
Chief Barnes says he looks forward to working with the city's oversight board and being transparent so they understand the tactics that police employ are evidence-based.
That is my commitment to evidence-based policing. It's establishing an industry standard and using our independent monitor and civilian oversight board to report back to the community and say, yep, they did the right thing in this particular case.
The leadership of the Community Oversight Board, I think, is really leaned in and really is trying to set up the right structures to create the right conditions that they can make a big difference in our community. So I'm really hopeful about that.
NAACP President Greg Jones says the Law Enforcement Leaders of Collaboration is another group working to improve relations between police and communities of color.
This is an organization where police across Dane County, the various jurisdictions, and community leaders come together on a monthly basis, talk about issues of concern, also take positions on issues of great interest. As it is now.
When asked to look ahead 5 years from now, Dr. Barnes hopes to repeat what he accomplished in North Carolina, changing the police culture while reducing crime.
When I took over as deputy chief in Salisbury, North Carolina, the city had the highest crime rates they had had in 20 years. And in 3 years, we were able to reduce crime to the lowest numbers they've ever had. And in 3 years, we had no unsolved homicides. And you can't do that without community support. So at the end of the 5 years, I want us to have the lowest crime numbers we've ever had.
The chief has concerns that calls for defunding the police have gained traction in Madison.
We can't move funds from the police to fund these other things that we should have been funding in the first place until we get a handle, number one, on the immediacy of the problem.
But not everyone in Madison agrees with the chief.
I do support the idea of reallocating funds into services that actually provide livelihood and well-being to folks versus looking at law enforcement as redefining what their role is in society. There are folks that I represent or my next door neighbors who their relationship and experience with the police is they're relieved when they see them come. And sometimes I want to say I wish I had that experience.
We can defund the police and reallocate funds to resources and systems and programming that we know that works, right? So this is the thing about data within the context of white supremacy, racism, is that we love to collect data. right? We spend millions collecting data, and all the data says institutions are racist, right? The criminal justice system is racist. Then we have this other set of data that says, you know what does work? Culturally, programs that are culturally centered works, culturally centered schools and education works, empowerment works, housing works, jobs work, opportunities work.
Brandy Grayson is a well-known Madison activist, recently turned administrator of Urban Triage, a nonprofit organization that she founded to provide both direct services and what she calls transformative education to her clients. She explains why she believes Madison is not in a renaissance.
The renaissance will imply that we are making systemic and institutional changes in policies and procedures that centers the humanity of those most vulnerable, and we are not.
However, Brandy does feel that people's consciousness was raised during the Black Lives Matter protest.
We are awakening. I think that in the last few years with the murder of Mike Brown, the murder of Tamir Rice, Black Lives Matter movement, there has been this evolution of consciousness in Black people and this desire for us to create solutions to the challenge of racism.
Black Lives Matter protesting made a big difference, and folks, understand, just like the movements during the Civil Rights era, that people are just sick and tired of being last priority. People are sick and tired of the endless disparities. So Black Lives Matter's made a difference.
I got involved because I didn't know what else to do. After years of doing it and going to city council meetings and stand up late and writing demands and organizing hundreds of people to show up at city meetings and county board meetings and school board meetings and, blacking off entrance to the jail, nothing changed. Nothing changed.
She felt she had to adjust her strategy, and that's where the idea of Urban Triage was born.
We have to move from this place of just protest, but some concrete solutions for people known as Black and our co-conspirators to do the inner work that allows for the paradigm shift that's required in our world, in our society.
Judge Everett Mitchell says he handled some of the cases of the protesters from the Tony Robinson incident, a young Black man killed by a white Madison police officer, and was appalled at how protesters were treated and how they were covered in the mainstream media.
Well, one, it prompted me to become a judge. You can't just have change from the outside. You also have to have some people who are willing to go inside the system to change the system in and of itself.
Once I got inside, I noticed how rigid that system was. And I also had to enforce the laws that were passed by the legislators and signed by the governor. It still mattered that I was in there. It still matters that we have African American judges on the Dane County Circuit Court, because they bring with them huge community experience, huge community commitment, and more significantly, an understanding about what's going on in the Black community, why folks are poor, why people struggle, why kids are in trouble.
And before I be a slave.
If there is no real criminal justice reform, Black leaders fear that Blacks will never experience Madison the way its white residents do. And they say the fight for justice must go forward.
Whether we're fighting forward for voting rights, whether we're fighting forward for criminal justice reform, whether we're fighting forward for any other thing, it's got to be forward, because forward is the next generation.
In the last election, Madison's elected more Blacks to its city council and school board than in its entire history. For nearly 25 years, Blacks, although those serving were extremely accomplished, rotated the same seat on the school board, while having only 1 or 2 Blacks on the city council at any given time.
It is a new era, and the challenge is that it should never go back the way it was, but to build and explore and create what Madison can be for the future, for the totality of Madison.
Although Alder McKinney says a new day has arrived in Madison, she cautions not to have too high expectations among the newly elected Black officials, because she says they are still learning how the system works.
We're figuring it out, right? systematically, we have to know what the process is and understanding the process so politically we can have strength.
I think a challenging part for me as being a practitioner or a social worker by education is I want to get way more involved. I want to go to all the meetings. I want to absorb all the knowledge so I can then be a liaison or a bridge or help folks navigate what can be a pretty challenging and intimidating system.
Madison also made history when it elected 2 blacks and its first Muslim to the Wisconsin legislature, Representatives Samba Bach Balde and Sheila Stubbs.
As the first African American elected to the state legislature from Dane County, breaking 170 years of history, it is imperative that I make sure that I bring those marginalized voices, the underserved, the underrepresented, the hurt, the victim voices to the state capitol, because I know my ancestors helped build this beautiful building.
Representative Stubbs holds seats at both the county and state levels. She was appointed co-chair of Speaker of the Assembly Robin Voss's Task Force on Racial Disparities. She says 7 of the task force minor bills were signed into law by Governor Tony Evers, but not the bill she's passionate about on racial profiling. She questions when will her white peers make racial disparities a priority.
We're the worst place for black people to live, but we have a top 10 university that I'm proud to say I represent here in Madison, sitting here with the smartest people in the world. Why aren't we addressing racial disparities? At what point does it become a priority?
Representative Stubbs thinks Dane County is doing a better job than the rest of the state, and that County Executive Joe Parisi has done a great job in delivering dollars and services to the South Side.
It's delivering services back to a community that didn't feel like people were delivering services. And let's be clear, it's bringing economic development into South Madison. For so many years, we've been left behind.
You know, the black community knows what needs to happen. And so those of us who are not part of the black community need to listen to that and need to partner and need to take our leads from the black community.
County Exec Joe Parisi supports investment in the black community and has provided funds for the Urban League's new business hub while also working toward criminal justice reform.
There are so many people with whom if we can intervene early on, we can help deflect from the criminal justice system.
Former Mayor Paul Soglin is credited with helping open up city governments to blacks.
We had to change the political base of the city. We made great strides.
Soglin says he focused on 2 areas. 1, opening up government through appointments and hirings, and 2, talking to the business community.
It's not good enough to buy an ad in the Urban League or the NAACP program booklet for the dinner. And secondly, it's not good enough to buy a table. You've got to do more than that. You cannot limit your activity to simply writing out a modest check. When we walk on the floor of your manufacturing plant, does the workforce look like the people of our community? And the answer was no.
Through tax incremental financing, or TIF, and other city programs, Soglin feels he made a difference but remains frustrated from not being able to build more community centers.
I was trying to get more and more money for community centers, the kind that we have out at Warner Park. I wanted to see one at Darbo, I wanted to see one at Elver Park, I wanted to see one at Rindle Park. We ended up building an additional police station and fire station prematurely. They just weren't necessary.
Mayor Satya Rhodes Conway, Madison's current mayor, says her administration is committed to economic development in the black community and hopes to have moved the needle when her time in office is up.
I would hope that we had moved the needle on black homeownership and wealth building. I think that's a really critical need. I would hope that we had moved the needle on black entrepreneurship and supported organizations like the Progress Center for Black Women, the Black Chamber, others that we're working with in helping black-owned businesses to thrive in Madison and to thrive all over Madison.
Alder McKinney says blacks must use this historical moment to act.
We will not be at this place if we allow this door to shut without making a significant difference, shame on us. And when we look back on this era, we have to ask ourselves, what did we do? What did we do with this opportunity? And it's an opportunity. We were elected for 2 years. It's a fleeting opportunity. We don't get a do-over. Either we do it now or it won't get done.
I press toward the goal for the prize.
We live our faith, love our family, and lift our community, says Reverend Dr. Marcus Allen, pastor of Mount Zion Baptist Church, one of Madison's oldest and largest black churches. Mount Zion has been in Madison for 110 years. Reverend Allen says the black church is necessary.
We've always been the voice of our community, from slavery all the way through Jim Crow, civil rights movement, and even today. We want to be the church in the community where people can come to us for rescue and hope and peace. A few years ago, it was a shooting right outside the church, and some children were outside. They could have ran home. Home was close, but instead of running home, they ran to the church. And so we want to continue that, being that refuge for those who are in danger, or those who are just looking for some place to go to find God or to find strength and to find that peace that they're looking for. If people are coming to our churches, people around our churches cannot hear the church speaking out against the injustices that continue to hump their community, then we're not doing what we're supposed to do morally, ethically, and spiritually, or biblically. We're not doing what we're supposed to do. So I believe the church must speak up.
Dr. Allen plans to build a $9 million community life center to offer a variety of services and programs to the community. He believes that churches should be treated like other nonprofits when it comes to funding, because the church focuses on all aspects of a person's life.
I do believe that we have to be more intentional of proclaiming what we do, because where the church is often left on the outside when we're doing most of the work, if not more than the nonprofits are doing. Where we have to focus on every aspect of the human life, whereas other organizations probably only focus on kids, or only focus on women, only focus on housing, or only focus on mental health, where we are in all spectrums.
Although you may see her everywhere on Facebook, Dr. Corinda Rainey Moore does a lot behind the scenes. She is a founding board member of the Foundation for Black Women's Wellness. She's either chaired their boards or led numerous agencies, including the National Alliance of Mental Health, Safe Communities, Community Treatment Alternatives, and chaired the Madison College Advisory Council that recommended the Goodman campus on Madison's South Side. She's excited about what's going on in Madison.
What's happening is so inspiring yet hopeful. I think now blacks have been able to get positions that they have never held before in this community.
Corinda is very active in Greek life. She says the fraternities and sororities mentor students, engage in community service, help students apply for college, and also raise money for scholarships so that students can attend college. Corinda says black organizations enhance the community in so many ways.
The difference between white sororities and fraternities is once they're done with college, they're no longer active in their fraternities and sororities, whereas the black sororities and fraternities are very much active after they graduate from college. In fact, one of our charge is community service. And so you will see a lot of black Greek organizations, we call them the Divine Nine, actively volunteering in the community, actively creating programs to support students and families in the community.
Perhaps what Corinda does best is connect people to resources.
A lot of times our folks are sometimes not aware of those resources and don't access those resources, but that's one of the reasons why I do all the work that I do in the community, so that I can be aware of what's out there, and when folks come to me for help, I can guide them to the right resources. And if I can't, I know somebody who can.
We have been ushered by the Holy Spirit. We have been guided by the Word of God to come into the holiest of holies.
I definitely think that there's a Black Renaissance that's taking place.
Reverend Dr. Alex G. is a Madison luminary. He's the senior pastor of the Fountain of Life Covenant Church and founder of the nonprofit Nehemiah Center for Urban Leadership. He hosts a popular podcast, Black Like Me, and provides Black history courses to thousands annually. In 2014, he launched his Justified Anger movement to contest systemic racism and issued a challenge to the community in a powerful letter published in the Madison Capital Times newspaper.
One of the things that I feel has thwarted the success of Black people in Madison has been the preponderance of white people speaking for us. Many of them are well-intentioned, others are just ill-informed. But for decades, white people have said, oh, we know what Black people want. I heard a Black friend say, then they've transferred that to all Black people. What's been happening lately is that we've been stating what we want for ourselves.
Reverend G found out that Blacks wanted a space that would allow them to be their creative best, while also feeling at home. As a result, Dr. G is spearheading the building of a Center for Black Excellence and Culture that can be a game changer in Madison. It's his most ambitious project to date. A 60,000 square foot building on Badger Road that will promote Black culture and arts.
We see the Center for Black Excellence that will be moving forward, really digging into Black culture and making a place for the Black community to have a focal point.
They call it third space, some place where people can gather to reinforce their sense of culture and identity. When I described this a few years ago, former Mayor Soglin said, Alex, don't be apologetic when you talk about this, because we had this in the Jewish community. He said, we called it the Jewish Cultural Center. He said, my grandparents met there at a dance. My parents went to preschool there, and I went to daycare there. He told me the mixture, something like that, but he just said for 3 generations, that cultural center reinforced who he was.
Dr. G believes the center will promote Black creativity and so much more.
The center is going to be a place where we will highlight Black innovation, Black performance-based theater, drama, comedy, storytelling, lectures, makerspace, innovation where there will be room to sculpt and to paint and to craft and create, but also to teach those artists how to create a business, a side gig with those skills.
Alex says Black leaders are serving the entire community, even though they may run a Black organization.
I'm Black and I lead an organization that serves the needs of Black people. The thought is I'm just a Black leader and I just do Black, and that there's no connection between it and the overall good of the community. And so Nehemiah's goal is to make Madison better for everyone, and the role that we can play is by strengthening and building capacity in the Black community.
By focusing disproportionately on sports and crime, Black journalists say the mainstream media, whether intentional or not, misses much of the positive news that occurs in the Black community, leading many to believe they do not report on the Black community fairly.
Absolutely not.
And why not?
I think there's just not enough people of color, especially Black people, in decision-making roles in newsrooms.
Most of them don't understand our story. They don't know who we are. And negativity sells everything.
The way I look at it is that the Black community had bad PR for 400 or 500 years. So in terms of the imagery that was done, whether it was religion and politics, across the board in terms of mainstream culture, that it was bad press.
Madison's press serving the Black community tries to provide a more balanced view of Black life in Madison.
My goal, especially as a Black journalist, is to help our youth see themselves outside of what mainstream media likes to portray us as. Criminals, gangbangers, drug dealers, and rappers. And so my initial role to me is to help change our youth's mind first, so that they can see that they can be so much more than what the mainstream media portrays us as.
I've written 4,000 to 5,000 stories about people of color over the last 22 years. And if anyone was reading it even haphazardly, it would have had to expand the imagery in their understanding of the different communities of color.
Yvette says there are times when it is very difficult to be a Black reporter.
Sometimes when you have to cover issues such as systemic racism, the George Floyd killings, we're exhausted because it affects us emotionally as well. But you have to still bring your A game and tell the story as best we can and keep our emotions out of it. We're really exhausted and we're angry. You know, there's been times where I wanted to put the pencil and paper down and the camera down and just join the marches. But I know that if I'm not there telling what's going on and telling the story behind the story, then it's not going to be done correctly. So I have to be there.
We're the ones who have the Black community's back, no matter what happens. I mean, because these are the people that we love and know and work with and play with throughout our lives.
John Grambling has reported on the Black community for over 2 decades and believes what's lacking in the mainstream press when covering Blacks is context.
I understand and appreciate the context of people's lives. Because I went to Alcorn State University for 2 years, spent a lot of time in Mississippi, worked for the Urban League for 12 years, treasurer for the NAACP for 6 years. So I've had that lifelong experience and understanding of context.
I think we've given people the opportunity to raise their voices who don't get that opportunity in mainstream media.
Ms. Betty Banks comes from one of Madison's oldest Black families. Her grandfather, William Miller, was part of the talented 10th in the Niagara movement, led by his friend W.E.B. Du Bois, who would visit their home. Mr. Miller was a lawyer, and her grandmother, Anna Mae Miller, was a teacher, although he could not practice law in Wisconsin and she couldn't teach here.
They would keep track of what was happening across the country and really worked hard to uplift the Black people in this community.
Their family home is now on the historic National Registry. Her grandparents' activism clearly rubbed off on Betty, who at one time published both the Wisconsin Free Press and the Madison Times newspapers.
I don't know if y'all ready for this.
25 years ago, she and Gotti Bendan launched Club TNT, Today Not Tomorrow, one of the oldest running weekly TV shows in the nation.
We had interviewed young people and were kind of astonished at what we were hearing about kids and drugs and cigarettes and sneaking into the liquor cabinets and, drinking and a lot of risky behaviors. And so we thought about it and thought, so what could we do to help them raise their voices about it and also really talk about risky behaviors and the whole idea of making good choices today and not waiting till tomorrow. Thus the name, Club Today, Not Tomorrow.
Historically, there have been a number of African Americans starting Black newspapers in Madison, some more successful than others, all promoting positive news. Since 2015, Madison 365 has taken journalism for people of color to the next level. They provide daily news updates, host a podcast, sponsor leadership conferences, and much more. Madison 365 has a large social media following and are providing a more objective picture of Black life in Madison. They are setting a new standard for the community. Perhaps the most beloved media icon to publish positive news about Blacks was affectionately known as Mother Malele. For over 2 decades, Miss Malele Chikasa Anana was publisher and editor of Umoja magazine, the oldest Black-owned magazine in Wisconsin. However, she was much, much more than a publisher to the Black community and touched many lives.
Miss Malele refused to let others tell our story. And she did so in such a way that the amount of pride that people in this community has for the culture, for Black people is evident in the pages of the magazine.
Miss Malele played a huge part in my career, pushing me constantly. I would bring paintings to her house for a cover, and she'll say, Jerry, you know this isn't quite good enough. I need this changed, or I need a little bit more. Can you get it to me tomorrow? And I would do it because I wanted to please Miss Malele and to make her happy.
Her very home was a haven for artists. Secondly, through Umoja magazine, she gave me the opportunity to publish.
So if you see us moving into these spaces, it really is because there were other people who really blazed those trails so that we could kind of step into these roles and protect us and offer support in different ways.
While filming this documentary, we discovered that while Black leaders had genuine concerns about Madison's racial disparities, they also loved their city and had clear hopes for what Madison could someday become for Blacks.
I truly want Madison to become a place where Black families can thrive and prosper.
I would love it to become a place where we belong.
This is a Madison that really belongs to all of us. It is not a, this is their place, this is for them. This is, this is our place. We deserve to be happy here. We deserve a State Street that also reflects our values.
We're going to make this place a place where now people don't have to want to keep driving past Wisconsin for fear that they're going to get locked up. Now we want people to, get off that interstate and stop anywhere in Wisconsin and know that you're welcome here. That's the most important thing that I would like to see us turn the corner to this being a completely acceptable, welcoming place for people of color.
There should be little doubt that Madison's Black trailblazers are incredibly capable and are doing great things for the city.
None of us are figureheads. We're not just here because, hey, here's a person who's African American who's qualified. We're here because we care about the work that we do. We want to do a good job for our community, and we want to make our community proud of us, but we certainly need your support.
If people don't play games, don't withhold the money, don't create policy nightmares, then we're going to show what we're really made of, and it's going to be spectacular.
Michael Johnson offers this message to Madison's Black leaders.
My message to them is seize the moment. Utilize your influence, utilize your position to be a game changer and a difference maker.
We've come full circle, and we'll close with our original question. Is Madison experiencing a Black renaissance?
I taught history as a public school teacher, and one of the things I know about history is that you don't actually know what an era is until you get out of it. So I think it's too soon. It turns out that the Harlem Renaissance, for example, comes at the end of the 1918 pandemic. So I wouldn't be surprised at all that we would be in a Renaissance period, but I don't think we can see that yet.
Lisa Caire sums up what this historical moment in Madison could mean.
We have the opportunity and the ability to really make Madison a model of what a city looks like when everyone is on equal footing, and when Black families have the same access to own, to build a business, to send their children to quality schools, to live a long, healthy life, to not have their lives cut short by chronic illness. We can have those things, and the only barrier is us and our will to do so. That's what I look for, that's what I wish for, and I believe we can get there together. This is our moment in time to do it.